This is the Tiny 2 4K webcam from OBSBOT. It's hands down the best webcam that I have ever tried. Unlike most webcams, the Tiny 2 4K comes with a gimbal, and with the help of AI, it can track you even when in difficult places. It recognizes gestures. You can save certain positions called presets to certain parts of your room or office, and so many other features that we will talk about in this video. And it does it all without compromising on the quality of the video and in a size that lives up to its name. Speaking of size and quality, get this. It comes with a CMOS sensor with a size of 1/1.5 inches. Just for perspective, the sensor on the Tiny 2 is bigger than the one on the GoPro 13, which I have recently reviewed. An f1.9 aperture, an 85.5 degrees field of view, HDR or high dynamic range, autofocus and manual focus, and up to 4x zoom. Now, I really want to compare it to other webcams, but most webcam companies and brands don't post specs beyond stating it's a 4K or not. And you can probably guess why. The specs I just mentioned are not found on any other webcam, not even close. We'll also compare it to the Logitech Brio 4K and the Anker C200 2K, just so you can see the difference for yourself. Now let's unbox it and test out all this good stuff. From the get-go, the presentation is impeccable. The camera comes in this quality box, and once you open it, you will see everything sitting as it should. The hard case travel pouch design is more than an aesthetic look, and it ensures the safety of the gimbal while you're carrying it around. The camera is made entirely from metal, and it comes with a cable and a monitor stand that is also entirely made from metal and is incredibly well made. Like I said, normally specs on a camera this size means you just state if it's 4K or not, but in the Tiny 2, it has an incredible list of specs. A 1/1.5 inch sensor, the largest that I have seen in a webcam, and a huge jump versus webcams that mostly use a tiny, no pun intended, 1/2.8 inch sensors. It can do 4K at 30 frames per second or 1080p at 60 frames per second. It weighs in at just 95.6 grams. It has both auto and manual focus, an 85.5 degrees wide field of view, an f1.9 aperture, 2 built-in omnidirectional mics, and a 3.0 data transfer power port. You might have noticed 5 golden pins on the bottom. I spoke to OBSBOT and they told me that they currently serve no purpose, but can be used in the future to serve as future expansion ports. The Tiny 2 works just like any other webcam, plug and play. But to take full advantage of all the features, the first thing you want to do is download the accompanying software, OBSBOT Center. It's laid out in a simple and easy to understand manner. Make sure that it's plugged to a 3.0 USB-A port. Although it can work on a 2.0, it is recommended to use the 3.0 port. For Mac users, try and test both and see which one works best. Now, I can't show you everything that the software can do, but let's try at least to give you an overview. Pay attention because it means the difference between liking or disliking the camera. Starting with the top, you will see numbers from 1 to 4. This is to be used when you have several OBSBOT devices and make them work together to get studio-like shots and angles. Next is the preview button, then sleep and wake up. By the way, the camera is never asleep when plugged in. It turns the camera down and it seems like it, but it's always working in the background. Then you have the record button to record videos. Next to that is a very important button. It's called virtual camera, and it's what allows you to use beauty mode and blur background and all sorts of software magic. Then the remote controller. Now, I don't have one, but you can purchase one online if you want, but it's not necessary for the stuff we will be talking about in this video. And then this button here. It's magical. It's what allows me to connect the Tiny 2 to my Streamdeck and have full control of it using the physical buttons and the knobs to turn. And the last one on the menu here is the OSC, which is an acronym for Open Sound Control. If you're familiar with programming, it's similar to JSON or XML, which with enough knowledge can be used to monitor data between musical instruments. I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what it does, as it's beyond my scope of knowledge, but from what I understand, it's basically useful for musicians. To wrap it up quickly, you have the console, which allows you to control the gimbal. Then you have image, which is how you control stuff like HDR, autofocus, and so on. And lastly, you have the More button, which gives you access to all the remaining features like voice command, sleep time, gesture control, and so on. Now, if you can't seem to get something to work, you can always head to the Explore page on the OBSBOT website, or simply leave a comment below and I'll try my best to help. Let's start with the obvious one, the tracking features. I say features because there's a lot of tracking modes. You can track your face, your body, your right hand, left hand, lower body, upper body, and so much more. This can all be determined via software. Now, as for the accuracy, it's incredible. We're talking about never losing the focus of the subject at any point. Now, I know a lot of companies like to use the word AI these days, but the Tiny 2 is truly AI powered. The ability to track and distinguish between your right hand and left hand is beyond simple programming. It requires a lot of real-time information processing to be able to recognize objects and act accordingly. And I think that AI on a camera makes a lot more sense than most devices. The 2-axis gimbal with 150 degrees pan in each direction and 45 degrees tilt also in each direction ensure that it doesn't matter where you stand in the room, the camera will follow you. One of the things that didn't interest me at first but turned out to be super useful is the light indicator on the front. It's beautifully constructed of 3 small LEDs to simulate a line that can also light up in one solid move or can simulate a movement by lighting independently. Now up front, if you find it distracting, you can always turn it completely off, but you will probably want to keep it on as it can tell you the following. Solid blue means that it's tracking a face. Solid purple means that it's using one of 4 modes: desk mode, whiteboard, hand, or group tracking. Solid green means the camera is in a fixed position. Solid yellow means the camera lost the target that it was tracking. Solid red means there's an error. Blue and yellow flashing will take place during upgrades, and so on. I had to list as many as I can just to show you how useful these lights are. Admittedly, it's not always fun when you have to go to the software to adjust something, so being able to make a gesture and have the camera recognize it and give you a feedback is excellent. Speaking of gestures, this is another way you can control the camera. If you remember when I showed you earlier in the software that you can change the tracking style, well, that can also be achieved using gestures and you will get a feedback by looking at the light. The camera uses AI to recognize features which are super accurate and useful. Hand up in an open position, you can activate or cancel tracking. This hand gesture will allow you to zoom in or out, or you can do what I did. Hi Tiny. Sleep Tiny. Hi Tiny. Track me. Hi Tiny. Unlock me. Yep, you can control it via voice commands. You have 7 different commands and are available in 2 languages, English and Chinese. You can disable any of the commands based on your preference, or perhaps if you think you will be saying any of these commands randomly as part of your speech or conversation. Just to show you how accurate it is, it can tell the difference between hi and hey. Hey Tiny. Hey Tiny. Hi Tiny. Hey Tiny. Hi Tiny. Beauty mode. Although I had fun poking around with it, I personally don't have any requirements for beauty mode. But in the age of social media, I think it's something that can be super useful for social media users like TikTok or Instagram. This is clearly a focus for OBSBOT, as you can tell from all the options. It goes beyond a couple of options so that they can claim it in their product spec sheet. They really spend time adding features and organizing them. They even have presets for both ladies and men. The most notable thing about beauty mode is that in order for it to work, you have to have the virtual camera mode enabled. This will give you two different camera streams. Make sure you choose the one that says virtual on the name. This has to be my favorite feature. Now, because the camera has what is called hot keys, which is basically a combination of keys that you would normally never press together, like Alt plus I or Alt plus O, I was able to use these combinations to easily customize a Streamdeck page dedicated for the Tiny 2. And I assigned it to the most used features, like switching to wide angle after I have it zoomed in, or select or cancel face tracking, or even control the gimbal pan and tilt using the knobs or keys on the Streamdeck. Presets is also one of my top features. What it allows you to do is point the camera at a certain position from 300 degrees pan and 90 degrees tilt, have that position saved, and then with one click, you can have the camera point at that particular position. This is especially useful if you have a two-desk setup like myself. Of course, that's just for my use case. If you're creative enough, you can do so much more with it. The Tiny 2 features two omnidirectional microphones that are clear and of good quality. I say good because I'm used to my $150 microphone and can distinguish sounds on a microphone better than most people. For the majority of people, they will find the microphone great. There's a lot more to love about this camera. Notice how there is no privacy cover. Well, you don't need one. You can simply point the camera down with your hand and it will go to sleep. The camera is designed for it, so you don't have to worry about breaking the gimbal. It has magnetic base just like an action camera, meaning you can mount it firmly on any metal surface, including mounting it upside down or in a vertical position, and it will still output the correct orientation. It has a 1/4-inch screw to mount to a tripod. It comes with a nice travel pouch if you wish to use it both at work and at home. The incredible autofocus, the large 1/1.5-inch sensor that allows it to perform well in low light, the ability to zoom in digitally up to 4 times in camera without losing much quality, the fact that it's made out of metal and withstand a lot of abuse, the ability to save several positions and switch between them with the click of a button, and so much more. Now, I can't end the video without actually taking time to admire how small it is. I mean, just look at it. Tiny. Anyways, it retails for $329. And although the price is a bit steep, I think it's worth it in many ways. If you think about it and the value it provides, you can save on multiple devices. If you consider the fact that you don't need to buy another webcam for the next 5 years, since this is a 4K and most streaming platforms have not caught up with 4K streaming just yet. And when they do, you will be ready to go. You don't need to buy a microphone or capture card, and when you factor all these equipments, it just might be worth it for you. I can say it's a product I can easily recommend. During my 3 weeks of testing and using it, I can't find a single thing wrong with it or something that I disliked. And for me, it means that I can ditch the bulky DSLR plus capture card plus tracking head setup. OBSBOT is running a promotion this coming Black Friday, and the Tiny 2 will be on 20% discount. In addition, you can also use code RANDOMTECH for an additional 5% and a total of 25%, or almost $83. I will leave a link for the product in the description. If you buy the product using the link, you're also supporting the channel at no additional cost to yourself. That's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.